Honestly, this year can already. If it seems like I'm rushing through this, it's because it's my second time recording this and also I'm sick, so yeah. Hola. Just like I previously announced, this week's manga is called Hitori-tachi and it's by Kanno Aya. It was released in 2010, but I don't know if the stories have come out separately before. I frankly couldn't be bothered to look it up since it's not really relevant for this video. The title Hitori-tachi could be translated as those who are alone or something along those lines. And this is actually a collection of short stories, which is always interesting to me since it allows the author to show us different things they're capable of. I think most people only read one of these short stories since I believe the rest hasn't been translated, but correct me if I'm wrong. So I'll briefly introduce each story and then I'll talk about the themes and so on later. As always, there are timestamps, so if you want, you can just choose the parts that interest you. So the first story, the main story, is called Hitori-tachi. It's about a girl called Yuki whose father just passed away, or at least I assume it's the father, it's not really clear. And just before his death, he gives Yuki a piece of paper with a name and a number written on it. Supposedly, it's the only thing her mother left her before she died, which was way back. And so now Yuki is all alone. She decides to quit university and look for a job, and it is then that she decides to call up the number from the piece of paper. A guy answers the phone and asks if she was looking for a job, which she indeed was, and he asks her if she can come immediately. She goes there and a guy called Tsunaki was already waiting for her. And without even knowing what the job is, he tells Yuki to put on a uniform and come with him. They arrive at an apartment and it soon becomes clear what their job actually is. So what they're doing is basically they sort out the stuff that people who were recently deceased have left behind. And so their company is actually called Tsunaki Life Service. And yeah, that's what they do. So they go to people's places and sort out the stuff, because the people who died didn't have anyone in their lives anymore who would do this for them. So it's people who lived and died alone. And now that Yuki's constantly confronted with death and loneliness, she naturally starts questioning her own life and relationships. It just forces her to reflect on who she is and what she's doing with her life. That's really all I can say for this story. They're all pretty short. This is the longest with, I think, 60 pages or so. So the other stories are even shorter, so I'll tell you even less about those. So the second story is called Eien no Honey, or Eternal Honey, and this is the one that most people have read apparently, the one that's been translated. And it's about a father and his daughter Honey. The father is kind of a good-for-nothing guy, so the daughter, who is like 10 or whatever, kind of takes care of him instead of the other way around. And he also has this recurring dream where he loses his daughter. So each time he wakes up, he's just extremely glad to still have her there. Naturally, he's extremely protective of her. But their life is about to change when a new woman enters their life. And you better read the rest for yourselves. Third story is called Akusaga 0, and it's indeed part of Kanno's 2-volume series Akusaga. And I haven't read that yet, so I don't really know where this story here fits in, if it's a prequel or a sequel or in the middle of it. I don't know. Anyways, this story here goes like this. Zen is a ruthless criminal who fights for freedom under what seems to be a dictatorship. But one day, he is arrested and thrown into prison, now awaiting his execution. Inside, he meets a guy with a weird name, so let's just call him the Writer, since that's his nickname inside. He wrote critical things about the government, so he also received the death penalty. The writer has always looked up to Zen though, as he thinks he's a true freedom fighter. And now the two of them start hatching a plan to escape the prison. Again, that's all I can say really. It's a really short story, but this one I liked a lot. I will definitely read more of this saga. The last story is called Kizuguchu kara nagareru Eien no uta, or the love song that flows out of the wound It sounds very strange in English. It's about a young, famous pianist who casually got acquainted with a young girl. Only she's not a girl, she's actually a ghost. The pianist is strangely accepting of the ghost though, since she kind of brings a new light into his life. He's been depressed lately and kind of has lost his passion for music, since everyone around him seems to only care about profit at this point. So he's kind of stuck in a rut and doesn't really know what to do. But through this ghost, he kind of finds his passion again, and he plays and she sings and they just have a great time together. However, he can't shake the feeling that he's met the ghost somewhere before. So these were brief summaries of the stories. Now let's talk about the themes. As the title suggests, it's about loneliness and being alone in general. In the first story, the two main characters deal with people who died alone, so naturally they start questioning their own place in life. The second story has this neurotic father who's constantly afraid to lose his daughter, which is a fear a lot of us probably have, you know? What happens if the people we love die and leave us alone? Will we find the strength to love somebody again? And so on. Akusaga is a little different in the sense that its main theme is freedom, of course. I mean, we could of course argue that the main characters are alone in the pursuit of freedom, as the government basically tries to crush everyone who doesn't comply with their rules. And in the last story as well, the protagonist feels alone with struggles. However, in all of these stories, life-changing events happen. And although depressing, the stories end on a more or less positive note, I think. The whole manga definitely left me feeling melancholic though, which is not a bad thing at all. Just shows us how light and shadow need to exist as one reveals the other. The author also put in some humorous remarks here and there, which I tend to welcome. But now let's briefly talk about the art. The style is very shoujo, but a little dark, which kind of reminds me of the works of Yuki Kaori, and I personally love this kind of style. But one thing I always kind of criticize a little bit about shoujo in general is the fact that it's lacking proper world building, I guess you could say. I guess that's what I mean. Since, you know, the focus is on the individuals and what they're feeling and going through. I know it makes sense to focus on that more, but I just, I know that's just the way it is, but I just think it would be cool to see these gorgeous characters in like a proper setting and not just the hint of a wall or the hint of stairs or, you know, stuff like that. But that's just my personal opinion. I really fell in love with her style, and I also like her ideas. I think she can do many different things, like create different characters and various scenarios, so I'll definitely read more of her work. And I have another manga by her. It's called Makoto no Kuni, I think. But now I really want to read Akusaga next. I really like freedom as a theme, so if you know stories like that, please let me know. Right, I think that's all I wanted to say. So thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Oh, and yeah, if you read this manga, please let me know what you think about it. So thanks again for watching and have a good day. Bye bye.